And now, Jabroni Studios, in association with Big Herm Productions, is proud to present to you, recording from an undisclosed location in Oakdale, Connecticut, it's Chris Burns, it's Chris Lynch, this is Dysfunction Junction.
Welcome back, everybody, to the train ride from hell and the nonstop to nowhere. Look out the window. The signpost says, "Welcome to Dysfunction Junction."
Fuck yeah!
Welcome back once again. My name is Chris Burns. My co-host to my left,
Chris Lynch.
And producer extraordinaire, Big Herm.
Hello, hello.
We have one other guy in the studio. He's going to chime in the whole time, but he's got his own special segment. I want to introduce you to the women's pet and the men's regret. He is too sweet to be sour, funky like a monkey. He lives barbell plates and eats T-bone steaks. He is sweeter than a German chocolate cake, and for the right price, he'll take care of you when you're dead. It's Derek the Undertaker. How you doing, bro?
Hello. Thanks, guys.
All right, the crowd goes wild. Woohoo! And our guest goes mild. Anyway, so I gotta ask you a question. Do you think we should pull our show from Spotify until Joe Rogan is taken off the air?
Absolutely.
No.
Well, in case you've been living under a rock, or like Lynch, he had a lot of things going on this he had to tend to. He missed this story. Neil Young starts this campaign: take my music off of Spotify, or take Rogan off of Spotify. The Joe Rogan Experience.
He said take Joe Rogan off,
or take my music off,
or take my music. But we don't want.
Yeah.
I don't want me where he is.
Yeah, which is stupid. Here's a guy that went on the Freedom of Speech tour just a few years ago. He's from the hippie generation, free love and freedom of this and freedom of that. Now he's a crusty old man, and if you don't agree with him, he's going to scream at you to get off his fucking lawn.
Apparently, he's not rocking in a free world anymore.
Absolutely, he's rocking in a leftist woke bullshit society. And not to be undone, not to be outdone. Here comes Joni Mitchell, who sold exactly 11 albums in the last 30 years.
Who?
Exactly. If you can name a Joni Mitchell song, we will send you a free T-shirt once we make them.
You can't Google it. You just got to know that shit.
Pow! Which we can't know if they Google it. They're just going to email
Here's the problem. Here's the
gmail.com.
problem with all the listeners out there. Any listener under 30 doesn't have a clue who the fuck Joni Mitchell is.
Yep.
Anybody from 30 to about 60 knows who Joni Mitchell is, but really could give a shit less. And the people that actually know Joni Mitchell, the 60-plus group, they have no clue what the fuck Spotify is.
Exactly. And the whole point of this that he's saying is that, Joe Rogan's spreading misinformation about COVID-19, and he has guests on that go against, I hate this term, but the science. He had the guy who invented the fucking Moderna vaccine on his show, and the doctor is questioning the efficacy of the vaccine, and he has every right to do so. Why? Because he invented the motherfucker. But, Joe Rogan's spreading misinformation. What kind of horseshit is that? Joe Rogan pulls in 11 million listeners per day when he runs a podcast. I guarantee that if you were to look up on any of your Google machines how many plays Neil Young and Joni Mitchell combined have had on Spotify on any given day, it won't reach 100,000.
It's still less than Nickelback.
Well, Nickelback threatened to put
Here's the threat. Nickelback's going to put more music on Spotify if you don't take Joe Rogan off.
Right. And Yoko Ono's following suit.
Oh, dear Lord.
This is the dumbest thing ever. And Derek and I are fans of Matt Walsh and some of these conservative podcasters, and they're not spreading misinformation. They just say the things that progressives hate, which is truth. A man can't be a woman. You want to live your life that way? I say it all the time. God love you. Do your thing. But you physically can't be a woman. Sorry. And a woman can't physically be a man. And if they really want to get on this patriarchy bullshit for every man who becomes a woman and then breaks a woman's sports record, come on now. Now they're taking more away from you, ladies.
I agree.
So, Lynch, now that you're all caught up, I know you're a big music guy like me.
Yep.
I know you've probably listened to your fair share of Neil Young, as have I. What do you think of all this?
So he was one of my big influences in music, but as I was growing up, like the hell was it, the Steel Horse tour, where he did the quadruple live album, was like an amazing rock album. Rock You Like a Hurricane was the big hit off of that. And
Are you conflating Scorpions with Neil Young? Rock You Like a Hurricane.
I mean, no, yeah. I'm sorry. Rocking in the Free World.
Or if you're my cousin, it was Keep on Rocking It to Freebird.
Keep on rocking it to
Misheard lyrics are
Freebird. That makes
bitch.
sense.
Bird, keep on rocking to Freebird.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had two different bands on the same.
Christ.
Well, it would be an ultimate mashup, though.
That would be.
But "Rockin' in the Free World" was a great song at the time,
Yep.
and he always said he would never sell out to commercials.
Yep.
What did he do? 1989-ish, 1990-ish.
Yeah.
With the beer commercial.
Yeah.
This bud's for you, or this one's for
What a
you.
Michelob something or other.
Yeah.
Who the fuck knows? I don't think Derek was alive in 1989. We have to double check it.
I was not.
Oh, here we go.
I
Sit under the learning tree, son.
But most of his clients still.
We'll get into that in the next.
And a little more than a few minutes later.
Oh my lord, we have now pissed somebody off, and we don't care.
As much as I appreciate him as a musician, I don't agree with his politics, and I don't agree with his opinions, and he sways his opinion with whatever is popular at the moment, and to me, doesn't really have any true conviction.
None of them do.
Honestly. Well, it's the influence of celebrity, the pop celebrity mentality, and I'm gonna go with whatever the tidal wave is taking me, and whatever is convenient in the media. For him to say, "I'm gonna pull my music unless you don't throw a gauntlet down like that."
No, because you're gonna lose.
You
Regardless of if Neil Young was the highest selling artist going right now, and he still pulled that shit, I say he would have lost.
and I agree. I mean, look what happened with Metallica during the Napster thing.
Mm-hmm. Good call.
I mean, Lars is up there on his pulpit, banging his hand on the podium.
They pirated our music without asking.
Well, you know what? Tickets are so much to go see you live in concert, and not to the artist's fault,
right?
Because you got places like Ticketmaster and all
Live
these Nation, all that shit that charge a huge premium.
The ticket fee, the air fee, the parking fee, the ass fee, the sweat fee
for the convenience.
Christ, by the time I'm done paying fees, my $20 ticket's now $140.
So it's paying for a convenience of going to Strawberries back in the day,
yeah,
or Robert's Records back in the day.
Oh, I love that place.
Or Caruso Music back in the day.
Or even better, the back of J.C. Penney way back in the day.
Oh, way back.
In the back.
way back. And you're paying for convenience. I understand that. And I really appreciated what Pearl Jam did a number of years ago and said, don't buy your tickets through them. Buy them from us.
Yeah.
They're $20 a piece. Any seat.
Yeah.
And this is what people don't realize is that most musicians make their money on the road.
Of course.
The albums, they only see pennies on the dollar or dimes on the dollar in gross sales. Most musicians see their big nut at the end of a tour.
Look at the bands we grew up with.
Well, look at the 18-month tour that most of these metal bands back in the 90s, 80s, and 90s did.
Oh,
they toured for
Christ,
almost
Metallica
2 years.
was on the road for 2 straight years. On the strength of the Black Album, they took a month off and they went back out again.
Because they knew their album sales were good, but they know that if I keep...
Hold on just a second. Metallica is a band that started in 1981.
I know.
Okay, just checking. I know you're younger. I'm just trying to help you here, bro.
No, I have a wide range of music.
Depeche Mode and everything else.
But
80s
they
new wave,
Okay,
Duran.
got you. Go ahead, Lynch.
They saw that even though their album sales were through the roof, they're not going to make their nut that way.
No.
They're going to make their nut by performing live through their merch. Because every merch tent, other than the parking lot guys,
My favorite.
$10 t-shirt parking lot guy.
I got you. I'll take 3.
Yeah, and they know that they're going to make their majority of their money for that fiscal year for them. There's that fiscal cycle through touring, through merchandise, and through sales at the concert.
With the exception of Def Leppard, who had to take 4 years off because you just can't do shit when you don't have both your arms for a while.
True.
Look at the bands we grew up with, and the cycle was album, tour, album, tour, album, tour. Like in a row. If they took time off, it was like 4 months. Let's rest. We just got off the road. 4 months later, hey, Gene, you want to go in the studio? Yeah. All right. And you're back.
Well, you even look at like Poison.
Well, the whole point of the tours wasn't technically money. The whole
promote
point,
the albums.
direct.
The whole point of tours is to push the album sales
Yeah.
because truly, there's a lot of money made at a concert. The musicians aren't the one who's making it. For the amount of work they put out
On their guarantee,
right.
but yeah.
Versus sitting at home, versus knowing that every time, and that was the whole thing. The 20 cents they got, or the $3 out of each record, the tour is what pushed. Oh, now I got to go buy the album. Now I have to hear the whole thing.
But your album sales on a new record, and I'll just throw, say, because we just mentioned Nickelback. Fuck them. Nickelback puts out a new record. The biggest spike in sales is in the first 4 months. You go on tour, people are going to go, oh, I don't have the new record. Let's go get I'll go buy the new record. But it's a trickle after that. And maybe somebody dies or it's in a movie, and now you get this influx of... That's something that doesn't happen with Neil Young and Joni fucking Mitchell.
So what happens now, because of streaming services like iTunes, Spotify, everything else out there right now, at iTunes and all that shit, there's no such thing as a record, like a sales-crushing record in albums.
No.
It's per single, from what I understand, per single, per album. Mm-hmm. So they make their money now through that downloading and streaming.
Yeah.
And how Apple Music makes money is kind of like baffling to me.
It's subscription. I pay $10 a month to get unlimited Apple Music.
But let me throw another little nut in that.
We're going to bring this back around at some point, but I like where you're going.
Let me throw another nut in this basket. I was watching Netflix last night. My wife and I got hooked on this show.
What show?
In From the Cold.
Okay.
Really good show. If you like kind of like espionage, sci-fi kind of thing, It's really, really good. It actually blew me away how good it was. But I'm sitting there thinking to myself, after we watched the show and Megan went to bed and I'm watching another show, how can Netflix afford to produce these movies that are Hollywood quality, number one?
Oh, they are.
Outside of the movies they buy as distributors. Because some movies are made to be released to theaters, everybody else passes. Netflix scoops them up.
That's what happened with Cobra. That's what happened with Cobra Kai.
Pays them the distribution fee.
Easy for you to say.
And they have no ads. It's not like YouTube where if you put it
or Peacock or Hulu,
right? The streaming service has completely changed entertainment as a whole, not just music, but movies, everything, television. Mm-hmm. Why do I want to sit down and watch with commercials, SNL, Jimmy Fallon, whatever you can watch on ABC nowadays, when the day later on Hulu or YouTube television or a Tubi TV, I can watch it uninterrupted without commercials and DVR it at the same time.
Right.
So I can watch it multiple times before I lose my DVR privilege on that.
Okay.
It's just like, where is this money funneling in from? And how? And I get it. It's all in exclusive deals and making deals behind mahogany doors and all that bullshit. Music is its own little beast because I can buy 3 cuts out of an album at $1.99 a piece. So you're at $2, $4, $6 plus tax, plus any other service fee they charge you. Mm-hmm. You're almost paying for the entire album at that point, just for 3 songs.
I always say buy the record and weed out what you don't like.
Whereas if you buy an iTunes album for $13.99, $14.99, you get the whole album. You may get 10 out of 12 cuts, there might be 7 turds that you don't like, but it's the freedom of choice to like you said, weed out what you don't like, and trash that and keep the rest.
Go ahead. I can tell you why. It's the iPod generation, sir. Mm-hmm. It's the same reason that every time I get a wedding client, they think that their personal playlist is the best fucking playlist on the planet, and that everybody on the planet at the wedding is going to dance to the bullshit that they listen to, because the iPod has created the ultra-tailored music experience. Mm-hmm. And everything else is followed. You and I bought an album. Why did we buy an album? We bought an album for one fucking song.
It got your attention. And then you learn the
And
other
we
11.
had to buy the whole album. They don't have to buy the whole album now. The only song they care about are the 3 on the album that they like. So they only purchase those 3. Mm-hmm. Somebody else who likes those songs that Stephanie didn't like, well, they're buying the 3 that they liked.
Right.
So what you've got now is everybody thinks that their personal selections are the best.
Well, it's like an a la carte society. It's like fast food. We're a fast food nation, whether it be entertainment, TV, music, movies. I want what I want when I want it.
Yeah,
when
it's fast food
for,
generation.
When it's convenient for me. And you know what? I'm not going to say I didn't dabble in Napster and all those other bullshit things back in the day.
Did Lars take your name to Washington?
No.
Okay.
I really didn't give a fuck.
They're pirating our music without asking.
And I understand the theory behind why they got upset about it. Trust me, I get that. Because they're in business. They're a business.
Yeah.
Whether you're a comedian or an actor or a band or a musician, you are a business entity, and you're in business to stay in business. And taking that money out of their pocket, I can understand why they got upset.
I'm going to bring this back around.
But if
in a second,
if Napster never happened, iTunes never would have happened.
You're absolutely correct.
iTunes never would have happened. It's giving the consumer the freedom of choice to take what they want when they want it and enjoy it when they want it.
All right, quick question around the table, starting with Derek, and it's just quick right off the top of your head. Who's the biggest artist right now? Like the most popular, most famous, in your opinion? Don't all
For
scream
some
at
reason,
once.
Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift, okay.
Right now, I notice Billie Eilish is really high on the charts.
Okay, cool. Herm?
I don't know if I can pick one.
Just throw anyone that's
Kendrick Lamar is pretty big right now.
okay. If any of them,
he's been big every album.
if any of them had thrown down that gauntlet to Spotify, to hey, I'm Taylor Swift and I don't like Joe Rogan. You can have Taylor Swift or you can have Joe Rogan. Then there might have been a question.
Oh, I think if Taylor Swift had done that, you would have had a completely different change.
Of course.
Because your audience, first of all, would have known that her audience would have known about it.
Exactly.
And it would be relevant to the people that use the service.
Correct.
Spotify could give a shit less about Grandpa Jones who doesn't have a fucking iPod, who listens to the AM radio. They could give a shit less about
Right.
him.
They're still listening to Personality Radio, WICH, Norwich.
Welcome to NPR.
Where you see what you like and you like what you see.
at Gorin's Furniture.
49 New London Turnpike, Norwich Town.
Norwich Town.
But seriously, again, for the 11 people that listen to Neil Young on Spotify, look, I can bring up my phone now. I have exactly 2 Neil Young songs in the thousands of downloaded music legally. I didn't Napster it, but through the Apple Music or whatever the fuck they call it now, iTunes or what have you. I don't have any Joni Mitchell. And I guarantee that Derek sees more of their crowd than we ever do. We'll get to that in a few minutes.
Yeah.
But this was the dumbest move either one of them could have made. And it's all about one thing, being relevant and swaying with the tide.
Right.
Chances are, unless Neil Young died, you weren't going to see Neil Young's name in the paper. Unless Joni Mitchell murdered her family, you weren't going to see Joni Mitchell's name on any news website. But the minute they tried to pull this shit because we don't like what he says and we want him... Why is it that so-called progressives who want to make the world a better place, the minute they don't like something you say, they want to destroy you?
True. I mean, it's a horrible thing to think about.
Right. You're conservative, Jones. What do you think about this? Yes, you with the head.
Jones.
Everybody's Jones. Get on with it.
Oh.
You're younger. We've established that. Your generation came up, CDs, and then the iPod and all this. We had 8 tracks for fuck's sake, and vinyl records, which Lynch still has a butt ton of vinyl records over there. But you've always had music when you want it. Mm-hmm. Okay. At any point, it's going to be a 2-part question. At any point before all of this started, did you have any inkling of who Joni Mitchell and Neil Young were?
I did know who Neil Young is, and I highly dislike him. and I can't name one Joni Mitchell song.
I don't think Joni Mitchell can name.
I
one
was
Joni
just going to
Mitchell
say,
song.
I don't think Joni Mitchell can name one of her own songs.
She might give you a good gravy recipe. I don't know. The second part, again, conservative. You listen to all the shows like I do, the Matt Walshes and the Jewish Beavis and Michael Knowles. I almost got lynched. He almost spit out his gimmick. beautiful. Am I lying when I say if the left doesn't like what you have to say, they're going to try to destroy you?
No, absolutely. Yeah, that's bullshit, really.
Basically.
I don't know as if you could say the left. I think you can say that there are extreme elements in the left.
All right, I'll buy it. I should have been more eloquent.
No. It wasn't to point it out.
No, I got you.
Just so to be specific, there are reds and blues that are kind of purpley. We're kind of in the middle, so we're kind of a purple color. We're not really.
Yeah.
But I again, you've got Neil Young has always been extremely super far left.
While espousing freedom and liberty at the same time, I think it's all a show.
Right. I get the generation he comes from and that back then, but and all of that, hippie, world peace, love, and motor grease. But it's just not the way it is, and now he just comes off as just an old cranky man.
He's screaming at you to get off the fucking lawn.
He's pretty much. Those kids are on my lawn again, and that's really all it comes down to.
That goddamn Joe Rogan's on my lawn.
I don't even know if it's a case of him trying to stay relevant. I think it's a case of him trying to persuade somebody to think his way, and it kind of backfired on him.
I hope and I pray, he's made his money. He's 140 years old. He's married to Daryl fucking Hannah. How did that happen?
That is a very odd couple.
Money.
To me.
It's like Lyle Lovett and Julia Roberts. How the fuck did that happen?
Yeah.
That's like me ever getting married again. How the fuck did that happen? But at the end of the day, they got another couple seconds tacked onto their 15 minutes of fame, and they did it the wrong way.
Yeah, I can understand that.
If you truly believe in liberty and you truly believe that everybody has a voice and everybody has an opinion, which was the whole hippie mantra back in the day, we want to be heard, let them be heard. Kind of like us. Heard, Herm?
Heard.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to answer the age-old question. How did Derek the Undertaker become a mortician? We'll be right back. Today, we're going to answer the age-old question. How did our friend Derek become a mortician? As we sit here with our friend Derek the Undertaker. All right, when I first met you and I found out you were a mortician,
Yes.
I says, I don't want to know. I threw my hands up. You remember? I don't want to know. And then as I get to know you, I know you're a fucking awesome, cool guy.
Oh, thank you.
And I talked to the guys. I'm like, wouldn't it be cool to ask the question, how in the world does someone become a mortician? We know you go to the school and you learn all the gimmicks, but when you had a question from the hat a couple weeks ago, Lynch, what did you want to be when you grew up, which kind of led to this topic? Oh, I wanted to be the starting center fielder for the Yankees. I wanted to be a chef. I wanted to be a cop. I wanted to be a race car driver. When? Take us back, little Derek, running around, diaper on, whatever age it was. When did you decide, this is what I want to do? I want to be a mortician.
I think it was around 15. I was 15. And my brother was working a summer job at a cemetery. And then at that time, my mother kind of was raising us on her own. My stepdad left, all that bullshit. But when my brother went off to college, I needed to step up as the man of the house. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe I could take over his job at the cemetery. Well, fast forward 12 years, went from gravedigger to Undertaker. I befriended a lot of different morticians over the years, come to know them, and interact with them at the cemetery when they come in, and I was kind of interested in the business at that time, and they kind of hired me. One funeral director in Willimantic when I was working in Willimantic Cemetery. He saw, I guess, a lot of potential. He thought he saw I was a good worker and all that. So he offered me a part-time job on their removal team. So basically, when a director gets a call at night, in the middle of the night, they needed someone to go to the house and help them because it takes two to kind of lift. So I did that, and he's like, well, so around that time, 16, 17 years old, I was kind of getting interested in the business a little bit. And so he's like, if you can stomach this, then you can do anything.
That's the question.
Yes.
You have to have like guts of iron
Yes.
to do this fucking job.
So he invited me. He's like, well, he's like, the person you helped us take out of the house last night, we're going to embalm them tonight. So why don't you come over to the funeral home and watch us?
If you guys could see Herb's face.
Yo, we're having a couple beers, and we're going to shove a hose inside this guy's body and put some formaldehyde in. Like, you want to come hang out, bro?
See, when you say to me, I'm going to crack a cold one, I know what you mean. When he says he's going to crack a
scary
cold one,
shit.
yeah, I'm like, you don't have to tell me this story, please. Go ahead.
It's funny you say that.
Oh, Jesus.
My wife got me this clock for Christmas, and inside the clock it says, "Party like a mortician, grab a cold one."
Nice. Your wife is awesome, by the way.
She is.
Hello, Sarah, wherever you are.
She's actually our funeral home hairdresser.
Oh, wow.
Christ.
So it's a kind of a family affair. I do the embalming and she does the hair. They turn out great.
You need to hire your 4 beautiful children to pull a John F. Kennedy Jr. at all these. They don't even have to know the person. Just stand and salute as the casket comes by.
Does she do the hair and makeup, or just the hair?
Mainly the hair.
What are you, bucking for a job over here?
Why, you're going to do makeup?
I look fabulous.
Okay.
I can make anybody look fabulous.
Yo, the dead people never bitch about
No.
the way you do their hair or their makeup, bro.
My eyeshadow's too blue. Shut up, Hilda.
So's the rest of you.
Who knew that mortician jokes could be funny?
You're as purple as fucking Barney.
Oh, I've been counting on it for 2 weeks.
I know you have.
So do I.
All right, so you okay? I'm gonna wheel it back. Wheeling it back. You if you can stomach this job, you could be good at it. We'll skip ahead to Sarah and the hairdressing bit in a little while.
Okay.
So at what point does that spark go off and say, I need to go to mortuary school?
Well, that actually, because I was, working at cemeteries for a little over a decade, and there was an opportunity for me to move up, and basically just politics of the workplace. I was the youngest one by about 20 years, and I applied for a management position, like foreman position, at one of our various cemeteries we oversaw. We had like 10 cemeteries, but it was split up between 5 and 5, and one guy retired. So I'm like, okay, I want to apply for his job as the foreman of that crew and run that and those 5 cemeteries. My boss basically told me that the guys aren't going to listen to me because I'm too young.
Okay.
So I'm like, well, I toured mortuary schools back in the day, but it wasn't in the books at the time. That was around the time, I had to help, my mom with the family and everything, and just work my ass off, numerous jobs. And when my boss told me that, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to re-explore mortuary school, because I always had a fascination with funeral directors, and I've become good friends with them and everything. And so my wife was pregnant, actually, or we just had our 3rd child at that time. So I'm like, well, I'm going to wait until the spring semester, because at this time it was winter. So if I were to enter it, I would have started in the winter. But I'm like, I'll push it off. And then my wife's like, no, just do it now. What are you waiting for?
That's a good woman right there.
She's like, I have help. We have help. You have siblings. I have my mother. She's like, why push it off? You're such a procrastinator. Just do it now. I'm like, oh, yes, ma'am. So I applied.
You don't argue with the sweet baby wife.
Absolutely not. No.
Throwing another shout out to you, Sarah.
Or else I'll be sleeping in the barn.
There you go.
But so that's what I did. So I toured the school, applied, and they accepted me, and the rest is history.
Okay, I have to ask,
Yes.
just for sake of clarity, you hear kids all the time, I applied to Hofstra and Ohio State and Michigan and all these schools that have this, I don't know how you put this deluge of applicants.
Mm-hmm.
How hard, and I'm not picking on you here, but if you know the answer, please, how many people apply to these schools and how
I was
hard?
just gonna say, how big is the run on a mortuary school?
Right? Are you fighting like three other
It's-
Asian guys or something? Or
It's not big at all, really.
I didn't think so. Like,
because-
everybody's accepted
So
it.
I was homeschooled in high school, and
Okay.
I had a homeschool quote-unquote diploma, and
your mom made it for you.
basically. So when I
Get out, print shop.
showed that because I needed, proof of a diploma of some type, the dean basically was like, "Yeah, it's good enough," because there's such a shortage of directors.
That's not what I wanna
They're all-
hear. That's
What do
good.
you want to hear?
That's good
that
enough.
I had to kill somebody. In
You're the
night
guy that's
because-
gonna
Yeah, like we had to do
his lo-
like you had to go through an entire episode of American Gladiator just to
No,
get
no.
to
What I'm
school.
saying,
you know?
what I'm
That's
saying
how
is, when you obviously you do your job. I've not seen your work because the only person that I knew that you worked on, I didn't get to see because of their religious preference. But I know you do good work. But when you apply to college, you expect, oh wow, top of your class. Okay, well you're fighting with 60 other applicants. You're good enough. That's not the guy I want cracking my ribs when I go.
Well, there's not a big. So there were kind of in New England. There was Mount Ida in Boston, and Lincoln College in Southington, Connecticut, and both those schools closed, and those are the schools that offered mortuary science. So there was a small little private college, and the only thing it does is mortuary science.
Okay.
So it's just a private 2-year college in Norwood, Massachusetts, that I would commute once a week to go to classes, and they only had maybe 100 students. So it wasn't super hard to get in, but the school was fucking killer.
That was going to be my question. Like,
Yeah.
how hard is the curriculum? Like, what?
It's a
do
very
you do you go through like a whole anatomy and physiology and all that other stuff?
Yeah. So there were 2 sections because when I graduated, I had to take the national board exam. And one section is the sciences and one section is the arts. So with the sciences, you have anatomy, you have chemistry, you have more chemistry because of all the chemicals you're dealing with, and more anatomy. And then with the arts, you have like the boring shit that I hated. It was like accounting, merchandising.
The sales and business side of
because
doing it.
So with my school it's just a 2-year, but you can get a 4-year degree in mortuary science. So the 4-year degree, the other 2 years you're basically just focusing on the business side of things. Because like if you want to run, it's basically a bachelor's degree in business for mortuary science.
Right,
So if you want to own your own,
Sure, but
if you want to own or run your own,
exactly,
or your own
exactly.
practice.
Well,
let's say.
really, if you really want to run your own, you don't really need the 4-year degree.
It
Because
just
if,
gets
if
you.
you're in the business long enough, yeah, it gets you ahead quicker, I
It
guess.
gets you a little
but-
bit more your
Sure.
feet more wet to run from doing the mortician stuff to being a businessman to sell your practice.
Right, right.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so the way my school worked, it was only 10-week semesters, and we went year round, every fall semester, winter, spring, and summer, like straight through. And it was like 10 weeks on, 2 weeks off, 10 weeks on, 2 weeks off. So basically, you only have 9 weeks of teaching, and then the 10th week is the final exam for that class. So each class was probably 3 hours long, and they just crammed that shit down your throat.
Okay.
And they ingrained it in your mind to like the anatomy. Like there were kids in my class who took the same course 3 times over because they kept failing, and my school's super like if you get a 74, that's failing.
Oh,
You
okay.
have to get a 75 or above to pass.
Okay, good.
Because they want to make it because that's how the national board exam is set up. So after you graduate, you have to take the national board exam to actually get licensed, and that's through the state. I had to go to Wethersfield to take that, and I took them back to back, and everyone kept telling me, "Don't take them back to back because that's too much information and too little time. Take one, take a week, recoup, take the other one." I'm like, "Fuck that! I want this. I'm gonna do it back to back." So I did, and I remember in the building where it was like a big office building, and down on the bottom floor was a bar. And so after I took the second exam, it flashed on the screen that I passed. So I'm like, "Oh shit!" Went downstairs, went to the bar. I'm like, "Give me a shot of tequila."
My man.
Took the shot. I'm like, "Thank you, I'm done." I left.
Wow. At what point during the school did you actually get to do the practical side, where you actually are physically in a room
Yeah,
with
like
a body?
at what point do you get to do labs?
So my school's so small that we didn't really have labs at the school. That's one thing I really disagreed with my school because towards the end because there's like level 1, level 2, and level 3 classes. So when you get to level 3, it's like the hardest shit, but also they call it clinicals, where you have to be employed at a funeral home, and then every embalming you do, you have to, do a report and bring it back to the school.
You've got to log it somehow.
Yeah. So that's one thing I didn't like because I had to pay the school to work at my own funeral home and do work at my funeral home for my funeral home, but pay the school because that's technically a class. So I still had to pay out of pocket for me working, which was kind of bullshit. But I was already kind of working at the funeral home for like a couple years part-time anyway, so I kind of had experience in the prep room and working with other directors and learning how to do embalming. So I wasn't completely lost when I got to that point in time towards the end of my curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it was
kind of like a journeyman program where you invest, you buy your own tools, you buy your own shit.
true.
Kind of,
yeah.
even though you've gone through the school, you're doing your practicals, you're doing your basically your physical, your
Yeah, like an internship.
internship. Yeah,
Right. So with Connecticut has the shittiest laws, I guess, for directors because every other state that I can think of, especially in New England, because right now I'm currently in my apprenticeship, so you have to do 1 year apprenticeship after you graduate. Every other state, it's 2 years apprenticeship, but you can take that as you're in school,
right.
which is a 2-year program.
And
so
apply
when
it
you
to that
graduate,
time.
you're done with your apprenticeship, you're done with your school, boom, you're a licensed funeral director. Right now I'm just a licensed apprentice because Connecticut says, no. You have to do 1 year apprenticeship after you graduate, after you take the national boards, and then when you're done with your apprenticeship, then you take the state boards to get your license.
Now, once you get accredited in that, can you? So, I don't know what funeral home you work for right now, but if you after your apprenticeship and you get, blessed by the Pope to be an actual
Dominus Omnis.
Dominus Omnis, Eurydetus, can you go from, let's say, from Connecticut to Mass to Rhode Island? Is it interstate?
So, yes and no. So with the national, when you take the national boards, you can take that, and that's good for every state. But if you go to certain states, you have to take their state boards.
All right. So if I get past my nationals, I'm accredited in Connecticut.
Yep.
I still have to apply for the Massachusetts
State board.
accreditation.
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense because every state has their different
Right.
not jurisdiction, but they have their certain qualifications as to what you need to do to perform.
Right, because like most states require you to take the national boards and then the state board. But in Massachusetts, if you stay in Massachusetts, you could just take their state boards and you don't have to take the national boards, because the state boards are more or less like a dozen questions about their particular state laws
Right.
on how funeral directors.
Now, in the nationals is more
Oh, that's
widespread,
fucking
big,
brutal.
broad.
Yes.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
It's like applying for a local Connecticut State Police job versus applying for the FBI.
yeah.
You know, you're going to learn the Connecticut State procedure and protocol, but then you want to step up and move interstate. You got to learn every state.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, if you don't mind me asking, if you can tell me, where exactly do you work right now?
So I work for a corporate funeral home, which is based out of Houston, Texas, but it's a big outfit that kind of just buys up these mom and pops who aren't going to pass it down because they don't have kids, or their kids don't want to be in the business, so they sell and they kind of just scoop up funeral homes. So I'm part of a big corporate outfit. So I kind of work out of Norwich. We have 2 funeral homes in Norwich and 1 in Montville.
Okay.
But also we have affiliates along the shoreline, Old Saybrook, Madison, Westbrook, Clinton, New Britain. So they're all kind of like, we all kind of
spread
help
throughout
each other out.
Kind of spread throughout the shoreline and some interior stuff. Yeah.
But my main focus is on the 2 in Norwich and 1 in Montville. But like just the other night, I got a call at 3 a.m. from a funeral home in New Britain saying, "Hey, does someone pass in a nursing home in Danielson? You're closer. Can you make that removal for me?" So I'm like, absolutely. So I just bring them back to Norwich, and then the people from New Britain would come and bring them back to New Britain, type of deal.
So kind of explain to me what the removal process is. Do you have to inventory everything on the person at the time of expiration, like medications they were taking, all that other stuff? Any backgrounds and stuff like that? I'm
Nope.
asking I'm asking a broad question just for the people that don't
I got you.
understand.
No, I mean, if they're in like a nursing home or a hospital or on hospice care, I hate to say it, like they're basically at the end of life anyway. So
Correct.
the death certificate and the doctors already know, and so they basically they call the family, notify them of the passing of their loved one, and then they say, now you have to notify a funeral home. So then they say, oh, I want this one in Norwich. So then the nursing home or the hospital or the family will contact me directly, or contact the funeral home, which we have an answering service. So at 3 o'clock in the morning, the answering service will call me and say, someone passed at so-and-so nursing home in Plainfield. You need to go out, and they want you for the funeral home.
That would creep me out. I'm throwing it out there. I'd be creeped out as shit.
No, that's how it was when I worked at the rehabilitation center. That's pretty much how it was. When somebody passed, you get word around the ward to the employees. We'd all catch it.
Yeah.
And we just wait for the caravan to show up.
No, I get that part.
You know what I mean? And like it was amazing. Well, they were good at the residency there about clearing the halls from between the room to wherever people are in their halls, kind of quiet. But basically, and not to be disrespectful, they come in, slap them on a gurney, put a sheet over them, and zip them out the back door.
Right.
Like you're trying to do a bank heist.
But it's not like, look, and the reason I say it would creep me out is because, it's not like you're hauling a rug out. This is a human, was a human being. That would creep me out. You have to, again, I'm going back to guts of steel.
Well, it's kind of like, to me, it's like disassociating yourself with. Emotionally, you understand that this is a person you're removing, but you have no personal attachment to this person. And
another thing, I've been in the death business for over 12 years with cemetery or funeral home, but I'm also I view myself as a very religious person, so that's another thing that kind of drew me to this. Like, I'm doing the family a service in their most vulnerable time.
And that's the hardest part is
Yeah.
because my dad died back in 2014, and the funeral home we chose was Biles down in Groton.
Okay, yep.
They've done my grandfather's and my grandmother's service, and they were nothing but ultra professional.
Yes.
And very, very blunt and very just like, this is what we're going to do. My dad chose to be cremated, which is a question I have for you later.
Okay.
But and they act. I don't want to say acted, but they showed their emotional investment in this because they, like, again, like you said, the religious aspect of this.
Yep.
They saw this as they're doing a service for this person under the eyes of God.
Yeah.
And this is based upon whatever religious beliefs you have, whether you're Catholic, Christian, Jewish, what have you, they would follow the particular parameters in handling the body and what they should do with the body.
Correct.
And that to me, you are under the pandemic, you are an essential service.
That's one thing I was always pissed about when they kept saying heroes, frontline workers. I'm like, don't forget about us.
Yeah, right?
Please don't forget about us.
Because look at the people who expired in a hospital or at home due to COVID. Mm-hmm. Who the hell else is going to take this body, put it in the back of a car, bring it to the funeral home, and have the embalming done?
See, I was going your
I
route,
was with him on the first Tuesday.
right? And I'm all out of lie. So you gotta dig the hole yourself.
Yeah, here's a shovel. Fuck you. Thank you, fuck you, bye. Here's a shovel.
Joe Pesci and Robert De Niro are on their way right now in the Cadillac. They're building condos.
I think the trick with that is that, and I could be wrong, but you have to remember that by the time he shows up, as far as I'm concerned, all right, and this is just me talking, by the time I show up to somebody's home, a hospital, a facility somewhere, by the time I show up, what made that person a person is gone.
Exactly.
And
literally what you're dealing with now is the
shell.
Right.
The remains.
You're dealing with and I'm going to say it just because I'm crude. There's a lump of meat on a tray. Now, the respect that's involved would go to the client being the living family that wants their loved one treated, remembered, and handled in a professional manner. I think that if I was in your shoes, I think the key would be to focus on the living.
And not the expired.
And that's what we say.
Because let's be honest, a funeral
service
is not for the dead person.
Exactly.
The dead person doesn't care what they do, how they treat you, if they stuff you in a pine box or a pillowcase and shove you in the ground. The funeral is literally for the people that are still alive. It's
Exactly.
for them
Exactly.
to have their mourning moment.
You've just given me a new idea. We already have an agreement in place, you and I.
Yes.
And when I go, I get free cremation. I want a pillowcase.
No more
me.
coffee can?
That's
Well,
me.
the coffee can's for Emma, but when you slide me in at
Chock full of
1,800
shit.
degrees, I want the pillowcase over.
How many degrees?
Is it 1,800? 3,800?
Yeah, it's between
It's
between 16 and 1800.
I was going to say it's about 2,000 degrees.
Yeah.
And the hardest part on a body, and I don't know this from personal experience per se, and the biggest thing about getting rid of a body is the amount of moisture in it.
Yeah.
The body has to cook for an extremely long time before it dries out enough to actually to burn.
And no offense, I trust you with cooking, but when it comes to the meatloaf recipe, I'm going with him.
Hurt.
That's why with cremation.
And not one of you caught that, you sick, silly bitches.
I heard it.
All right.
Yeah. There are different times to.
Like my fat ass has to cook a long time.
Yeah, so you be first.
Give me a
burn.
week.
You'd be a first burn.
And then
Lynch, you'd be a second burn.
Yeah.
I'd probably be a third burn because they start off with the heavier ones because the ovens are just starting to warm up and it takes about 3 hours.
Oh, and as they warm up, you slide in something smaller.
And
Yeah,
then-
it's the
exactly.
same way when I cook. You start with the big roast, and then you time in
Exactly.
it like the roast has to cook for 6 hours, but the mac and cheese only has to cook for 2, and the carrots only have to cook for an hour. So you time it all in, and boom, it's all done at once.
How long's the body been in there? About 2 hours.
Put the corn in.
Can I throw my lunch in for 5 minutes?
Are you a large pizza or a small pizza? He's a medium. Put him in.
My man's a sheet pizza.
Yo, you ever get one of them big party pizzas? That's me,
That's Big
dog.
Herm right here in the fucking house.
All right.
So I'm sorry to kind of like bring that. You got to bring humor into this kind of situation.
Absolutely.
because
No, that's
you're
what
dealing
I
with.
tell- So, I'm sorry to cut you off.
No,
but-
go ahead.
No, you're absolutely
I'm
right.
leading into
So,
a point where I want you to talk.
I view, being a mortician, it's not like any child says, I want to be a cop when I grow up. I want to be a firefighter. I want to be an Undertaker.
I actually
No,
knew a kid
it's-
in junior high school who said he wanted to be a mortician from the time he was 11, and he went on to do it. I think
Really?
his family still runs homes around here. Brendan Cummings. And if he doesn't live around here, he's probably running a funeral home somewhere. His parents owned one in Norwich for years.
Yeah, this Cummings Gagney, and Gagney owns it now.
Yeah,
Oh, see, there you go.
Yeah, it's just Gagney now.
Yeah, well,
Wasn't it Gagney Petrowski at some point?
same. They're in Griswold. Gagney Petrowski's in Griswold. Cummings Gagney is in Norwich. But it's
The one
same.
at Griswold is right by Tractor Supply. There.
Yep,
Okay.
right down the road from my house there. That's where I live around there. But no, I always view being an Undertaker as more of a calling than a job, because it takes a certain someone to do it. Sympathetic, empathetic, emotional, but also you need to have a good sense of humor, because you're just gonna
especially
drive yourself to depression, to drinking. It's like you need to be a good
you need to be
foundation.
well-rounded.
Yes.
And to be a funeral director, and that's why we stuck with Biles we stick with Biles for our family services, is because they knew my family for years and years and years. They know the Lynches, and that's through the community, and they knew how to make my family feel comfortable with how they were handling my grandmother, my grandfather, or my dad, how to handle that situation, and they knew personal things about those people that if my dad were alive, he would appreciate.
Right.
If my grandmother was alive, they'd appreciate. And it's all about making that emotional connection to the family and just making it comfortable for them. Because like Mike said, it's not about the corpse. It's not about the person in the casket.
Yep.
It's about the family and making the family comfortable.
Correct.
in a very uncomfortable time.
It's a very difficult situation.
Correct. Yep.
I just lost my uncle last week due to pneumonia. He'd been on a banana peel for 11 years. It wasn't a surprise, but it was very sad. And my cousins decided to let him pass in Arizona. My cousins all went out there to say goodbye to him, and they're going to bring him back here to be preserved until a celebration of life in the spring.
Okay.
So it's, and I don't know what funeral home they chose, but he is back in Connecticut. He lived in Colchester for a number of years, so he's going to be honored here. Is there a situation where you see long-term storage of a cadaver until it's either cremated or prepared for a live funeral?
So,
Wouldn't it? And this is just the chef in me, okay? All right, and look, and no, for real.
Let me get the knife out.
For real.
Oh, my Lord.
This is the chef in me thinking about what you're dealing with. You're dealing with no disrespect, my friend.
No, absolutely. I
You're
understand.
dealing with a hunk of raw meat. How long can that sucker hang out in the fridge before it turns bad and you got to throw it out? Like, for long-term storage, wouldn't there have to be some preliminary sort of embalm process?
so with the embalming, if it is long term, then you would up the index, they call it, or percentage of the formaldehyde. So that's when the chemistry comes into play.
all right. So you jack up the chemical ratios.
based
Yeah.
upon the time.
Yep, based upon time. So we've had one where when COVID first came out, we felt bad for a lot of families because no one was allowed in the funeral homes. At the cemeteries, you were only allowed a group of 10 people. So all the people who had pre-arrangements for receptions, for wake, for a funeral mass.
They were all gone.
No church, no funeral home, no reception. They got fucked.
Yeah,
basically.
honestly, yeah.
So
I agree.
one person, they asked, let's give it a month and see what we can do. So we embalmed this woman, up the percentage, less water, more chemical in the tank. She was preserved, but it was more or less the external. So there was basically mold growing.
Right, like because
the
the inside preserves. You've basically brined the meat.
Yes,
but the skin is still not treated.
I'm ready to become a vegetarian. This is bullshit.
Everything is wrapped in the skin. That's been right. So
correct.
The skin must start to just get a little hokey.
And I'm sure there's a lot of creative.
If anything, you kind of turn into like not spongy, more raisin, because formaldehyde is a dehydrant.
Right, as well as the refrigerator draws moisture out as well.
Yes, yep. So maybe a couple weeks tops.
Before you start looking like a stick of soupy.
Jesus Christ.
Hey, Derek. Yeah. How long's Tony been in the freezer? About 2 weeks. All right.
All right, he's almost California raisin.
Great, now I heard it through the grapevine running through my head.
Heard it through the
grapevine.
Motherfuckers.
All right, another quick question.
Yes.
Unless Chris had one.
No, I'm good. I'm learning. Ladies and gentlemen, junction dysfunction show at gmail.com. Why wasn't Chris talking so much?
Well,
this is why.
So here's the reason I'm asking a lot of questions. I went to school originally to be a cop. Then I matriculated into forensic pathology.
That's one trade I wanted to do before mortician was be a forensic scientist. I was very intrigued in that.
I got to witness several autopsies performed by Dr. Henry Lee.
He spoke at my school, and I have a signed textbook with his. He signed my textbook. He's awesome.
That's the second guest we've had that referenced Henry Lee. Mm-hmm. How about that?
So
I've met the man. He's cool.
He is.
I learned a lot from him just through osmosis and going through the classes and watching the live autopsies.
Yep.
He mentioned a couple weird things that he had encountered during his career. What is like the most ridiculous or outlandish request that you've had from a family?
Keep the dick.
Throw
it in a jar. Keep
in
the
preserving the body. Like, is there any particular case you can think of? Like, well, that's not going to happen.
I think you got him on this one.
I was going to ask.
I'm kind of new to the game.
Like, what's the weirdest thing you've experienced?
Well, that's leading into that. What's the weirdest thing you've experienced performing an embalming or preparation for
smelling his fingers 4 hours later? I'm not lying. That was you remember that?
That was a meme I posted.
Yeah.
Yes.
When you've done with an embalming and you can still smell it on your fingers.
The smell of chemicals.
Fuck!
It's like a potpourri of death.
Oh my god. Honey, can you get a candle? We've got.
What's this candle? It's dead.
Embalming fluid and sage.
With a hint of lavender.
Which, not to cut you off, if you ever get a chance to go to Derek's house, dude's got some of the creepiest memorabilia ever. And one of the coolest things was these little mini urns. And I told him, I said,
those are keepsakes.
Yeah, when I go, obviously,
yeah.
the coffee.
Hold on,
the coffee can goes to Emma, but we had a good idea.
But so when we have his celebration of life or reception or something, everyone gets a party favor of a little keepsake urn with a little bit of Chris in it.
Yes,
as a
you
party
can take
favor.
it with you.
As you leave, here you go. Here's some Chris. Here's some Chris.
You get a Chris.
Who gets the
You
dick?
get a Chris.
You get a Burns. You get a Burns. You get a Burns.
Derek's the Oprah Winfrey. Wait. Are you going to die?
No, I'm good.
Please don't die.
Okay,
I'm
please
not.
don't die.
It's the one
Then
week
who's
you
going to
didn't
remove
get
me?
it. You got it, buddy. Give me your phone. I need the unlock code and your bank card, please.
Okay.
No, but anyway, to be serious, like, have you ever run into that or seen an experience of a cohort or coworker that has run into like a situation where like, wow, that can't happen.
There's one story that my coworker. So I've only been a director, not even a year. I've been in the business for about 4 years, working at the funeral home. I haven't personally experienced anything super crazy, but there's one story that a coworker of mine, he's been a director almost 40 years. He had this one case where, unfortunately, I think it was a suicide, and this kid like shot his mouth, like gunshot to the head, and it took like half his jaw off. So he had to reconstruct his face and wax his lips and everything. And he told, the family, don't touch him. There was a lot of reconstruction involved. Please don't touch him when you go up to the casket.
Oh boy!
The first thing the mother does,
Kisses his cheeks.
give him a big old kiss on the lips.
Oh,
The chunk of wax came right off on her lips.
oh,
He's like, guess what? Closed casket, wake.
oh. Okay, I'm okay.
Mama, you got something on your lip.
Chris, is your butthole puckering right now?
Oh, no, but that skin on my spine is doing its thing again.
Yeah.
When my granddad went, I had never been to an open casket funeral in 21 years of life, and then there's my granddad laying there in claymation, and I reached in, I touched his hand, and all of that mess, and I swear to God, every time I go to a fucking funeral, I see in an open casket, I see him breathing. I do. I sit there and you things in front of you, and we're all sitting in the little gallery. And
What are you
he's like,
smoking, Chris?
I wish I knew, but I swear that my mind will play a trick on me.
I want that. When I die, I want a little tiny pump to just pump it up.
I got one better.
No, what about
And I want a recording.
What
As
about-
you walk by the casket? I want it to be my voice.
What's up, man?
wait?
No, and as you walk by, because this is the one thing you hear at every funeral, and I'm going to make fun of it. As you walk by, I want you to hear, "Hey, Bob, don't I look like myself?"
If I wasn't getting cremated, I want like a Jack in the Box type thing.
I was gonna say that.
Yeah, so Derek does this. Da-dun, da-dun, da-da-da-da-da,
No.
bing,
Closed
and there I come.
casket, and the music. That was always like some nice classical music in the background. But if it's a closed casket wake, people go, and then the music, dun 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 dun, dun, and everyone, and right at the end,
Bing, here comes Chris.
Oh my God! It's a schmuck in a box.
Oh my, yeah, pretty much. Okay, now I have to pee. Continue the death talk.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the death talk is. This is definitely interesting.
So I have a ton more questions.
Go
sure,
for it,
hit me,
bro.
hit
Fuck
me.
your picks.
Fuck y'all picks.
I would try to answer.
So, in a situation where you're dealing with a remains that may need, that may need examination by a medical examiner.
Yes.
Do you do the primary preliminary embalming, or do you preserve the body until they can take it back to the ME's office?
So
you don't get the body until they've released it, right?
correct. So
Okay.
yeah. So if with deaths that happen unexpectedly, the police and the medical examiner will be called first, and if they determine that the cause of death was
Normal.
Some sort of foul.
yes
Yeah.
or not, not natural, then they will take the body back to Farmington,
Right, it goes to a coroner. It goes directly to
directly
The coroner.
to the coroner's office,
Yep.
and they do an
Where
autopsy.
technically, the body at this point is evidence.
Yes. Yep. So then they determine whether or not it was foul play or an overdose or suicide, because a lot of the time when people, they can determine whether this person died of a heart attack or something just by looking around the house and see if they have medication or something. They can determine, okay, this person was on heart medication. They were in their later 70s, 80s, something like that. This death was natural, so we're not going to take them back to Farmington. You can call the funeral home at that point.
Okay.
But when they're younger and it's unexpected, they almost always take them back to Farmington perform an autopsy.
Yeah, almost just as a precautionary level.
Exactly.
Just because the child isn't, child's not supposed to die.
Exactly.
We want to make sure right off the rip before everything. Yeah.
Yeah, a 22-year-old isn't just supposed to like collapse.
Right.
Like,
Correct.
Right.
When I was going to the studio bathroom, I heard the outro music. Did Neil Young cancel us too?
No. I hit a button.
Okay,
Mike-
stop hitting the button.
Mike hit his fat finger on the button.
So that
Buffalo fingers.
and at that point, I had to go to farm. That's why I was a little late today, Chris.
Right.
Because around 2:30, when it was
He had
almost
to-
time to
he
leave,
had to go get meat.
almost
Okay.
time to leave.
I
had to go to Farmington.
I've gotten weird text messages over the years from all of my friends. I was today years old when I got the weirdest. Hey, I'm on my way. I had to go to Farmington to get a body. You will never in your life, unless your name is Sarah, his wife, or me, get a text message like that ever in the history of your life. I guarantee it. It's not like Jen's going to text you tomorrow and go, hey, hon, I'm going to be a little late getting home. I got to go get a body.
Well, it's like Sarah's friend was just over the other day, and she's like, "Oh, where's Derek? Oh, he had to go get a body." And she's like, "If I didn't know the line of work he was in, I would have been like, what the fuck?"
I'd be afraid.
You're either a mortician
Or the cleaner.
or a mobster. He's Kuklinski with a better beard.
You're a Harvey Keitel and a point of no return.
There you go.
I need a bottle of bleach. I need a bottle of lye. I need this. I need this, and a fucking shovel.
Amen. But yeah, with autopsy cases, that is a long process for embalming. It's not your typical hour and a half. It turns into about 3 hours.
All right. So that leads me into my next question. So
Yes.
I got one when you're done.
on a typical day, you go to a nursing home, you exhume the body and take it back to your mortuary,
Your lab.
your laboratory, Dexter's lab, Derek's lab. What processes do you go through to initiate the embalming process? Like, is there any preliminary examination of the internals?
He wears a wig and puts on P-Funk. What do you think he's going to do?
No. So
Chris, this is a legit question.
No, I got you. Again, humor.
This is a legit question. You want to. There are people out there that don't understand how this process works,
I understand.
and they just think, they wave their magic wand over the body and it looks like it's still alive.
Right, but now I have the picture in my head of him wearing a clown wig singing, "We want the funk, gotta have that funk," while he's holding a spleen in his fucking hand.
No, they jam this big hollow fucking needle in your neck and pump it.
Go on. Answer his question before.
You're not far
I'm
off.
not far off,
you're not
bro.
far off.
Yeah.
You're not far off.
You know, it's basically the basic. Have you ever? It's basically the same thing as a piercing needle. It's cut and sharp on one end, but it's technically a tube.
Actually, it's blunt on one end.
Oh, even better. I get to shove it through flesh blunt.
What do they care? They're dead.
No,
Hey,
I'm
Fred, you
not. I'm not
heard
talking
me.
about them. I'm talking about
right, so
my
I'll
personal
give you-
enjoyment.
I'll give you two
You're a sick
scenarios
fuck.
of a normal case and then an autopsy case. So with a normal case, when you go to a nursing home or go to a house, you need at least verbal permission to perform embalming. You
Hashtag
just,
me too.
You can't just do it.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
been violated.
You have to explain that.
So with in my case, if I make a removal at 3 a.m. and I get back to the funeral home at 3:30, I'm embalming at 3:30 because there is no better time to embalm than right after death.
Meat's always best fresh, baby.
Exactly.
You could,
because then you risk
motherfucker. You're making me. You want me to go vegan, don't you?
because
Yeah.
because chemical as soon as someone dies, that's when the chemical changes
Okay.
begin. Blood starts clotting. Gravity,
The decomposition begins like
rigor
almost.
mortis.
Yes, the cell structure and again cooking.
Here we go.
The cell structure immediately starts to change. The fresher your meat, the easier it is to marinate it.
It's my big why.
Well, fucking Big Y's off the list for now on. Jesus Christ.
So basically, you want to embalm before rigor mortis sets in.
Okay.
Because rigor mortis sets in about hour or two after death.
Okay.
So
Now, okay, dumb question.
Yes.
Before you get into this, have you ever encountered where, like, I'm trying to remember the guy's name I used to work with, passed away in his apartment, like on a random Tuesday. It was days, plural, before they found him.
okay.
Now, he's probably stiffer and shit at this point.
Rigor mortis doesn't work that way. It doesn't stay forever.
No,
It's-
rigor mortis.
That's why I'm asking the
Yeah.
question. I'm kind of because you hear people talk about stuff like this, like, oh, he must have been stiffer than shit.
Right,
No.
like if you showed up 6 hours after he died and he was sitting in a chair, you'd have to lift him out of that chair.
he'd be
as a solid
Joe
mass.
Biden without,
But if you
without
got
the
to his house,
vocabulary.
But if you got to the house like 2 days later,
Correct.
rigor mortis and
Already
the chemical
passes.
changes has already passed. He's gone through that. The body is technically in a breakdown period.
Yeah.
and everything in the body goes.
Okay.
Yeah. But you can embalm when they're in rigor. You just have to give the body a full body massage. Basically, you have to.
All right.
Do you see this?
Hold on. Wait a minute. Hold on. I'm closing my eyes and picturing this. Is there candles?
Is there a happy ending?
Do you use a special lotion? What the hell goes
The
on
hot
with
rocks
there?
down the spine.
Do we have like mystical music playing in the background?
Do you get
What
the
hell?
cucumber infused water at the end?
I love that.
Oh
Yanni.
yeah.
That's at the beginning.
Okay, sorry.
They
That's
play,
what we wash them down with.
yeah, they play Yanni during the process.
Yanni. It makes you want to die.
Right?
Or Zamfir.
That's how we make sure they're
Oh,
dead.
see?
We play Yanni, and if they move, there you go.
I'm giving him a token right here because I'm going to be dead and Derek's going to take care of me. It's going to be the one time someone can force me to listen to Nickelback and I can't do a goddamn thing about it.
Why would I succumb you to that?
Oh no,
I'm dead. What can I do? I can't bitch.
Depeche Mode, bitch.
I like Depeche
Amen.
Mode to an extent.
not the way
Not like
he does.
He introduced himself the first time I met him as personal Jesus. So speaking
rest.
of which, it leads to a question. I'm sorry, I'm
prostitution
jumping the gun.
That's okay.
What you do, and you mentioned the religious aspect and the respect to the families.
Yes.
Have you met a director / mortician that has a God complex, as if I am doing this, I am doing you a favor instead of I'm doing you a service? Because it seems like it's the kind of business where you could one in a million have a God complex and
Really? Oh,
inflated
you don't
ego.
like me?
Yes.
Here, have your body back.
Right? Exactly.
Yes.
All right.
There is one.
Don't say his name.
I will not say his name. I will not say his funeral home because I'm not like that. But there is one. I don't understand how he stays in business, to be honest with you.
Okay.
When I was at the cemetery, and he'd come to the cemetery with the family to buy a lot for a gravesite. Just the way he presented himself and talked to the family, it's amazing to me how he stays employed or still has his business running with the way he acts. So yes, I know one.
Okay.
This ground right here is good ground. You bury somebody here, they stay dead for a long time. I can cut you a great deal on this hole.
Buy two, get one free.
It's $300 extra if you want to be by the cherry blossom tree because as prime real estate, people want to be there.
You can put the
really.
headstone
Dying to
here,
get-
you
they're
can put the
dying to get
headstone
in.
there, you can put it anywhere you want.
Not really.
All right, so going back to my
Yes,
question.
please.
Yeah.
Lynch is getting the crazy train back on the tracks.
So the process, you start the embalming process for formaldehyde and
Yeah. So
per percentage of water, depending on
yeah.
the presentation that you have in front of you.
So when you go back to the funeral home, put them on the table. You kind of just do a quick analysis of the deceased. Is she, he, they?
Don't even start.
Them.
Them? Is,
Shut up, Chris.
Is
I'm
he
not
or
backing
she
up.
really skinny? Do you need to do less formaldehyde, more water, or more humectant, which retains
You
moisture?
two should really talk.
Or is
like
it a
more than this.
bigger person like Herm, buddy? I like you. But
I'm glad you said
with
that.
you, I'd put
I've eaten sandwiches that are bigger than you, buddy.
I seen it.
I take it shit's bigger than you, bro.
For real, I took a shit before I got here that was definitely twice as big
Speaking
as
of
you.
which, you both got away clean because I had a Mondo Duke the other day. You almost got a picture.
Oh,
Awesome.
Christ.
If it wasn't 19 inches, I'm not wearing a Kevin Harvick hat.
All right, so you determine your ratios.
Yes.
Whether they're skinny or heavy or I suppose it even comes down to not even that, but also like if you were to pull Arnold Schwarzenegger in, just the muscle mass alone, even without
good call.
Without even the body fat, like wouldn't there? I mean, you've got to put more marinade in there, dude, to get the meat, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
like I
I'd
couldn't
probably
pack Arnold with the same solution I packed Lynch with, right?
Brine is brine, man.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
I'm just
Same-
curious.
Yeah, same kind of principle applies.
Not as crazy as I think it is, but definitely a
Yeah,
fluctuation.
definitely a fluctuation. So, yeah, definitely the bigger the person, thicker the person, you want to suck that moisture and all that out, and you want to shoot them more with the formaldehyde and more with the preservatives.
Right, you want less of their liquid in there and
Correct.
more of your liquid in there.
Right, because formaldehyde sucks the moisture out of the tissue and replaces it with that, which
So
in turn hardens the body. But also they have chemicals that have like lanolin and different moisturizers for a very
softening lanolin,
for-
like you'd rub on leather.
That's right.
Right. Exactly.
But for a very like dehydrated, skinny little old lady, you want to kind of give her moisture. So more water, less formaldehyde.
Puff her up, stretch
Yeah.
the wrinkles out, all that goodness.
Correct.
Yeah. All right, so you get them back. You're on the table.
Yep.
You've done your check. You figured
Yep.
out your ratios. How do we get into them?
Well, first you got to set the features, because when you put the formaldehyde in, it's like a cauterizer. It keeps everything stiff. So they actually turn stiff. I make them stiff.
Oh, so I can dye and you can make my face freeze that way?
Yes. I can put a smile.
Mom, I hope you're hearing this. I'm gonna die with that face on my face.
I'm the last one to put a smile on your face.
There you go, baby.
Oh my lord.
So you put the eye caps in to keep
Yup.
the eyelids shut.
Yup.
Then you can either do two of one things to keep the mouth shut.
Can I come watch you do this?
So many people want to
I'll-
watch me. My
I'll-
wife hasn't even seen it
I'll
yet.
stand in the back. And
Yeah, but
just-
she does the hair and the makeup.
Yeah, well, it's after the fact.
It doesn't matter. She get. Never mind. I'm not gonna say it.
All right, so the
I'm not
eyelids
gonna
are
say
set. You
Then-
set your machine.
Then, well,
Oh,
first,
you
then
set your features.
set the features, eyes, then mouth. So with the mouth, you can either sew the mouth shut, or it's basically like a miniature nail gun with little wires. So you do one tack in the top jaw on the gums, one in the bottom gums, and then you kind of tie it shut.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So then
for
it'll
the jaw.
stay.
So the
Yeah,
jaw comes
so the jaw
together
will-
and
yeah.
yeah.
So
You
that's done.
basically wire their jaw real quick.
Correct. Then I continue to raise the vessels. So then I make a little incision right on like the collarbone, and then you look for the muscle, the biggest muscle in the neck, and then you kind of cut your way through that, and then right below the muscle lies the carotid artery
Yes.
and the jugular vein. So the carotid artery
That's your
Is-
in, right? The
that's
carotid
the
you're
in.
in, and the jugular's you're out.
is you're out. So you make a little tiny cut on the carotid. You slide your cannula or your embalming tube in that. And then with the vein, you kind of just make a little incision again, stick some tweezers or something in there, and just let it open. So as the fluid goes in, it pushes the blood out.
Right. You're pushing
So
the blood
it's just
out.
a constant motion. So with the best case scenario, you only have to raise that one. If they had a history of arteriosclerosis or blood clots or something, then you'd have to probably raise a femoral artery. You'd probably have to raise an axillary artery in the arm, and then it turns into a whole thing. But
Now, during that process, do you do anything with the internals?
that's after the fact. I'll get to that. That's my least favorite part.
Oh, okay.
So
I've had my finger in this guy's ass for a half hour.
So you more or less, I always go rule of thumb, kind of the 2 gallons of fluid. You know, you put, it's like 16-ounce bottle of this, 16-ounce bottle of that. Different chemicals kind of help with blood clots, kind of help with the pH in the water, because you want to balance that out, because the blood pH level is 7.4, so you kind of want to match that. And if there's too much calcium or stuff in the water, it'll clot the blood, so you want to neutralize that. So that's where all the chemistry comes in from school.
Do you use EDTA at all?
Yes, that's in most of the chemicals.
Yes.
Yeah, very nice.
Yes.
Very nice.
Mike knows scarily too much about what
Yeah,
the fuck
this is starting to become a little weird here. Either you did some Google machine homework, or you know
none,
far
actually.
too much about this
I
shit.
haven't Googled shit for any of this.
All right.
I've been waiting for this for 2 weeks.
All right, I figured you did. No, when we brought it up,
Don't forget sodium lauryl sulfate.
Yes.
That's a surfactant. It
it
breaks
basically it cleans the arteries and the system as he pumps his solution
That's
through.
right. So
and it leaves
can,
a fresh, shiny coat.
Yeah, basically what it does is scours the inside of your bloodstream.
more or
Damn.
less. And
So
then
any-
Who are you?
So
Don't
the sodium
ask.
lauryl sulfate kind of breaks the shield on the tissues and allows, because formaldehyde is a gas.
Correct.
So that's when diffusion happens, and so you're putting it through the arteries, but it's leaching through the tissue to go to the outer skin. So that's why I put a lot of dye in the chemical, and you could see the body turn pink.
Okay.
So you know that it's getting good distribution throughout.
Derek, there's too much pink on this one. Dial it back.
Oh crap! You put too much in there.
Well, any surfactant is basically like a cleaner. Mm-hmm. It's like
They
put it in hand soaps, they put it in detergents,
correct, shampoo and all that.
that shit.
Yep.
It breaks down the oils and the essentials.
Yep.
To allow the chemicals to push through and do their job,
Right.
and
So,
but
like
prohibit them from doing more damage than they should. Correct?
Yeah.
Kinda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like when someone dies, gravity, the blood just sits there, and then it turns
Yeah, you
like,
get
the skin purple.
You get pulling, and you get like flat spots on the body.
Yep. So you get liver mortis, you get postmortem stain. So when the fluids go in, it kind of clears that up. It pushes the purple out and turns it back to the nice peachy, lively color. So then after that's all done, tie off your arteries, you sew them up or you glue them. Because especially if people like to bring in these low-cut dresses, you don't want to see a big, Jack Skellington stitch going down the neck.
You got to put a little Bondo on there.
Yeah.
Buff it out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Get the angle
And
grinder.
then
The angle grinder.
so the
Sorry.
so the embalming
That's
fluid,
all right.
it goes through the arteries, it goes through the tissue, but then what happens with the internal organs? Those are still going to decompose because the formaldehyde didn't touch the organs because it's going through the circulatory system. So what you do with that is called aspiration, where you have like this 2-foot hollow rod stuck to a hose, and you pierce them right above the belly button, and you suction the excess fluid out of the heart, then the stomach, then the lungs, then the bladder, and the intestines.
Yeah, you basically vacuum their
Insides.
their bowels out.
Yes, everything.
And suck it all out.
So after that's done,
I'm sorry I ever brought this up.
That
I really
this was your idea.
I
buddy.
know it was.
Derek, tell him, because after you remove all that shit, there's a crater.
Yeah, so your
And
cavity becomes basically
Yes,
like,
and you're.
Kinda. Yeah.
not so much like it doesn't implode.
I was gonna say, do you ever have to like put some stuffing in somebody to
You
like
fill
make
it with
them look
candy
right?
and you beat it with a stick.
because so when you take the excess fluid and stuff out, you're gonna put fluid back in, because then you take your bottle of 50% formaldehyde, and then you do not dilute that.
That means it's 100 proof,
So
kids.
Because you're pretty much hitting everything on the surface. You're not actually pumping it into anything.
Yeah. So then you take that on a separate
preservation
rod,
by contact.
and then you go in the same spots where you suction with the aspirator. Then you take this 50% bottle, and then you just go right where you went to treat the organs and the innards directly with that. So if that spills outside the body, your eyes and your nose are gonna be freaking burning, baby.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's
I'm
potent,
sure.
potent shit.
Wow.
So then
Okay.
after that, That's basically it. And then you just give them a full bath.
That's basically it.
You bathe them down, wash their hair, and
like he's baking
call
a
Sarah up.
Yeah, it's like he's baking a fucking cake here. Hey, that's basically it.
But the autopsy, that's a whole other thing.
All right, so you mentioned Sarah.
Yes.
I can only imagine she got tied up in this because of the work that you do, and she is a hairdresser.
Correct.
She does fantastic work on the top of my knot. So I think, by the way, Sarah, I got to come see you soon. Sweet baby, get together. So how did it creep her out at first, or how does that work?
She's very introverted. So for the years she worked at a salon, she hated it. So she finds more peace and quiet and comfort doing deceased hair as opposed to live people hair. So she prefers...
That doesn't make me feel good having sat in her chair.
No opinion, no feedback, no pushback.
I got to tell you about my 3 grandkids. Shut up, Maurice.
Well, which leads to a point is that 9 times out of 10, they will funeral home will ask you for a photo reference of how you want this person to look in life, the best that you want them to look.
Don't give them a picture of Elvis.
No, my favorite is when, mom, who's 92 years old and has like 5 hairs on her head and she's all shriveled up. They give you a picture from 1925.
I was going to say they give you a picture when she was 35.
Can you make her look like this? I'm like,
what am I, Madame Tussauds?
I don't have a wig master on the crew. Sorry. I can't poke hairs into her fucking
He had
dead
his
head.
wig on during the embalming listening to P-Funk.
We want the funk.
But no, I get that it's easier and you can do the hair. And your point about you're going to bring this picture from when she was 20 and she's 98. You can't. No. Give me a picture from a year or two ago.
Give me a realistic portrait of what you remember her the last time you saw her live.
They bring in like these photos of like the filters on like Facebook or Instagram, and it's all like pixelated and all different.
All like
shades.
Just
Twilight.
paint the stars on.
I can't even see her hair. What the-
Right?
I want it like this. Oh. You want the dog tongue and the ears too?
Do you want the dog ears too? Or? I mean, I can do it. It'll be an extra charge, but we can do whatever you want.
The big Disney eyes are the new ones.
I found a dead dog out back. I can just cut his tongue off and like staple it to her bottom lip.
We can get those. We can get those pig ears from Walmart and just tack them right on. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Oh fuck.
So in your time doing this, have there ever been a time where you're just like, man, this is like too much. This is like I can't deal, or is because you kind of answered this question earlier. You said it's a service, not a call, not a job. Mm-hmm. But has there ever been a case where you're just like, I can't fucking do this right now?
Yes. There've been a couple times over the last couple of years. I had to go to a house and remove and embalm and full service for this 11-year-old boy who had this very, very rare cancer. And he was just so swollen from just his tissue just collecting fluid.
Probably from steroids for the cancer and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just that was very difficult. And I almost broke down at the house because his father actually helped us put him on the gurney, and he told us that he's like right before the end he told me, Dad, you got to be strong for Mom and for my siblings. Don't cry for me. I'm like, this kid's 11.
Wow.
And he said that to his father. And when his father was telling us that, I'm like,
yeah,
I need a minute.
Yeah, you got to lump.
Because I have my own children too, so
right.
It's just
so it's like hit you at home.
Mm-hmm.
It's a personal relation right there.
Absolutely.
And I was just gonna say and ask, kids are probably the worst situation you have to deal with, especially kids that are unexpectedly dead or from a terminal disease. It sucks. I mean,
brings up a great question though, and I sympathize with you completely about having to work on this young man who had this terrible illness and he passed away at the age of 11. Is there a protocol that says you cannot work on somebody you know?
No.
Okay.
I don't think I'd.
And that was another question.
So-
Would you throw your hands up and go, I cannot do this. I'm too emotionally invested.
Yeah, I could if I wanted to. Then
I mean, burning me is going to be easy. Like, bye,
Yeah, but
fucker.
I can also.
I'll throw you in the oven ass first.
Thank you.
To the other side of that, I can probably say there's probably also a situation where you would, and it could be anyway, a situation where you're like, no, nobody is doing this but me. I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
Exactly.
And that's where the question was leading. Good call.
This person is that important, and I'm going to set whatever I have aside because I want to be the only person to take care of this for them
Right.
and their family.
Exactly, 100%. Working in the business, I get these thoughts sometimes. Like, I think about if my wife would pass before I would, and if she did, I'm like, who at the funeral home would do the preparations? Because
Who would you
I
trust,
don't,
bro?
I wouldn't trust
You're
anybody.
right. As difficult as it would be, you would have to do it out of your own honor and your own just love and
Nope.
need to make sure that
Absolutely.
everything about this person is perfect.
Exactly. So, yeah. No, absolutely.
Where you almost have to just fight it off, and your need to do the best job possible sets that aside for a moment because this is more important than my personal feelings, and I'll deal with those later.
Right.
It's tough. I mean, if I were a mortician and my wife was present in front of me, I'll be like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It's like I would do a disservice if I didn't make her family happy. And because my vision of her is probably totally different from her family's vision.
Sure.
So, fuck, I don't want to make this wrong. I don't want to do it wrong. I want to have somebody do it.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like,
have somebody else do it 100% in their own, like a third person looking in. Here's a picture. This is what I remember her as, and this is what I want. This is what the family wants.
My final vision of her should be like this.
Right.
and I don't trust any of you to do it, and I know what I'm seeing in my head, and I can execute
That's a
it.
great point, by the way.
But
yeah.
but personal feelings could get in the way, and I could like exaggerate a certain point or make it like too over the top. You know what I
Right.
mean? I would rather somebody with an outside perspective do the work than me kind of embellish. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because we have, everybody has their certain vision of their spouse, their partner, whatever it may be. I've been with my wife for 20 some odd years, and my vision of her is probably completely different than
She
her
only
dad's.
gets more beautiful every day.
Thank
She
you.
really does. No,
Thank you.
she's aged, and your wife too, Mike. And they have both aged so great. It's like they're aging in reverse.
My wife turned 47 yesterday, and people still
Looks the
ask,
same as the day I met her.
and people ask her, "What are you, like 35, 36?"
Yeah, same as I've known Mike's wife since high school. We all went to school together, with the exception of the color of her hair. I'm not picking on you, Jennifer. I know you listen, but she looks
You're
the fucking
beautiful.
same. She really does. I've only known your wife for a year, so she looks the same as the day I met her too.
That's true.
Love you, Sarah. Need a haircut. But before we lay this episode to rest, yeah, I said that. I'm still curious because you never really answered the question. I think it was Mike's question, or was it Lynch's? What is the weirdest thing that you've come across doing one of these services? Like, did the guy have a tattoo on his dick that said "Welcome to Nebraska"? Did you find nipple piercings where they shouldn't be? I mean, have you come across anything weird?
Maybe he just hasn't been in the game long enough.
Maybe.
I'm
Maybe
trying to rack my brain.
Maybe the actual frequency of those freak events. Maybe he's got that's why the guys that have been doing it 40 years only have like 2 stories.
Yeah.
Well,
Understood.
So tying into that, I remember years ago seeing this post on, I want to say it was the Reddit or Facebook or something like that, where this Puerto Rican guy died on his motorcycle. And they embalmed him and put him on his motorcycle.
Yes.
Yes.
And put him in his full leathers. And that was his wake service,
Yeah.
was him in his motorcycle.
Saw something similar about the guy who loved to sit in his easy chair. And when they came into the parlor, there he is, sitting in his easy chair, leg crossed, beer in one hand, cigarette in the other.
Well, and to me, that's
Same
how
with
I...
a boxer too. There was one set up. He was like in the ring. He was dead, but they propped him up with his boxing gloves on,
dear
like he was
Christ.
ready to fight.
And to me, that's how I put a guitar in my fucking hands or in front of a fucking record player.
Nope. Not me. If I were to be buried
there was
or be
one.
shown, I want to have a Batman mask on and the boxer shorts with hearts on them like Bugs Bunny. Just that.
All right, there's one. You know, I didn't really deal with this. It was most of the crematory, but the family brought in a massive bag of weed to be cremated with their loved one. So my friend Amanda,
God bless
So he
him.
gets baked twice.
yeah, and
He's well done.
and the crematory operators too. They got a secondhand high right there.
Oh, my Lord. Hey, Mike, I know he's almost done, but this is some good shit, man. Did you see Fred Flintstone on that motorcycle, man?
Oh my God.
That's funny.
Yep.
When my granddad died, I put a letter inside, and the schmuck funeral attendant in Worcester, as they're closing it for the final time, we're getting ready to go to the cemetery, starts taking shit out of there. I'm like, you put every fucking piece back in that casket. We left it there for a reason. Fuck you.
That's not supposed to happen.
No, that's all supposed to go in with
2
it.
years ago, a friend of mine passed away just before COVID hit, and his favorite drink was Jim Beam. So I went out and got a little nip of Jim Beam, and I put it in the casket, not in his hands. He's got the rosary gimmick because that was his religious thing, and hands are folded. I just put it next to his shoulder. He'd be like, hope that's enough for the ride up, my friend. With me, you guys are going to drop 30 racks in Crown Royals if they do a showing before he shoves me into the oven ass first. Which, is that okay? Can I go in ass first?
No, you have to go on feet first.
Ah, shit.
This is the way it is.
All right.
Sorry.
Protocol.
God
Sorry.
damn it.
Protocol.
I can just imagine him taking selfies next to the door as the fire's burning. One last one with sweet baby Chris.
Make your removal be like, that's all you got?
Yeah,
Down
really?
there?
End of shift.
You ain't swinging shit, bro.
Oh, anyway.
Wow. What a fucking story. I'm glad I didn't ask you that a year ago because I had too much fun tonight. And it wasn't anything personal. I was like, oh, so what do you do? I'm a mortician. Well, fuck you. I don't want to know. You're a mortician? That's great. But if you ever get a chance to go to Derek's house, many of you won't, but he's got some of the coolest shit. He got a coffin-shaped bookcase, and he's got little hearses, Matchbox cars, and some of the weirdest shit I've ever seen that I would have never seen had I not known Derek. And each one is funnier than the last. So my last question is going to be, all that little memorabilia that you have,
Yes.
What is your favorite piece and why?
That's a good one. I mean, I love to collect the Matchbox, Hot Wheel, Johnny Lightning hearses. Every one is different in their own way. I really like the one hearse I have. It's from I haven't seen the movie Cars.
Oh,
but-
that's the one you showed me the other night.
It's a car from the movie, and this car's name is Herschel.
Oh my
Nice.
Lord.
Yeah,
Nice. That's
but
good
it's
touch.
a hearse.
That's
Yeah.
the most Chris thing I've ever heard Derek say.
So that's
I
the name
know.
of it though. But I have to watch the movie now to see if it's actually a thing. But they made it for the Cars franchise, I guess, and they named it Herschel.
Oh,
So
my Lord.
I got that. I have this
too
really
funny.
cool. I have this really cool piece. It's probably over 30, 40 years old. It's like a marketing piece from this old Crane and Breed casket company that closed down in the early 70s, and they started in the early 1900s. So it was like the #1 casket company ever. But I have this little brass piece, and it's like 3 monkeys combined, and it's a speak, see, hear no evil.
Yeah.
But on the bottom, it says Crane and Breed Casket Company because it's the paperweight. So
Okay.
they use that as like advertising when they would go out and try to sell these caskets. Like, here's a paperweight, please think of us, type of thing. When you buried your loved one. So
okay.
those are very rare, and I was able to find one on eBay just probably about a year
I haven't
ago.
said it this entire episode. The penis fish is out,
There he is.
and Herm didn't die. So
Yeah.
who tried to die earlier? You did. You were
Yes.
coughing your face off.
Yes.
That's one of the famous bits people love. Are you gonna die? By the way,
Please don't die.
please don't die. That's gonna be our first T-shirt. If you have questions for Derek, and I will make sure, Herm, myself, Lynch will make sure to get these questions to him. JunctionDysfunctionShow@gmail.com. Make sure in the subject bar you put questions for the Undertaker, and we will get those questions to him. Derek, as weird and as creepy as this was fun. And yes, it was my idea, but I didn't realize we were going that deep, like elbow deep into the anus. This is good.
Literally.
Speaking of which, you ever gone elbow deep into an anus?
No, just wrist deep. In
You're not. Ooh. Was she
No,
hot?
I've been elbowed.
Was
not
he
gonna
hot?
answer that.
Sorry, Sarah. All right. You got
Put him
anything else?
bone.
You got anything else, Herm?
Nah, man.
Lynch?
I just wanted to give one quick shout out. This is a personal thing.
Okay.
My dad's childhood friend, George Barnes, who had been suffering from cancer for the last several years, passed away earlier this evening. Rest in peace, George.
Rest in peace.
You were a good dude, and we connected about right around the time my dad died, and I didn't realize how close you and my dad were. And God bless you, love you, and thanks for all the laughs we had in the last couple of years.
There you go. Absolutely. Rest in peace, George. I can hear the tribal drums in the background. We are going to bid you a fond farewell. Next week, hopefully, if one musician doesn't get us, the other one will. We're building a band next week. I can't tell you which 2 musicians. You already know one, but the other one is a surprise.
Nickelback.
Yeah, Chad Kroger's coming on the show, and I'm quitting. For Herm, for Lynch, and for Derek the Undertaker. Derek, thank you again.
Thank
and
you.
We'll see you guys next week right here on Dysfunction Junction.
Yo!
So